Welcome to a world where every purchase matters, where shopping is seamless, returns are effortless, and customer satisfaction is our top priority. At Retail Corp, we believe in you. We believe in your choices. We believe in your journey as a consumer. Anyway, someone filed a legal complaint in California in July 2020, federal court, Central District. And inside that complaint, which is a public document, by the way, you can pull it yourself right now, there's a paragraph that describes exactly what a company called the Retail Equation knows about you. Not might know. Knows.
Your name, your date of birth, your race, your sex, your photograph, your complete street address, the contents of your driver's license or passport, every purchase you've ever made at participating stores, every return, every exchange, the payment method you used each time, when you bought, where you bought, how often. And then, this is the part that made me stop. The return history of people thought to be related to you by home address, by family name, by what the filing calls other connecting data. So it's not just your file, it's your family's file, assembled without their knowledge and fed into an algorithm that decides whether you're allowed to return a sweater.
That algorithm has a name. They call it a return score, and it's running right now at roughly 60 of the top 100 retailers in the United States. That's according to the National Retail Federation's own 2023 data, which was compiled in partnership with Appriss Retail, which is the parent company of the Retail Equation. I want you to hold that for a second. The industry's own research body publishes its return statistics using data from the same company that's scoring you. That's not a conspiracy. That's just what the document says. So let's go back to the complaint. July 7, 2020, case number 820-CV-12003, filed in California by a woman named Hayden, initially against Sephora. It expanded. Eventually 12 retailers were named. Sephora, CVS, Bath & Body Works, The Gap, Home Depot, TJ Maxx, Bed Bath & Beyond. Not fringe stores, not specialty boutiques. The places you go on a Tuesday because you need shampoo.
The allegation, and this is documented in the court filings, is that these retailers were sharing customer data with the Retail Equation without telling consumers they were doing it, and that TRE was taking that data and generating what the lawsuit calls a consumer risk score, which was then used to approve or deny returns in real time at the counter.
The court found in 2022 that plaintiffs had, and I'm reading from the ruling, properly alleged a reasonable expectation of privacy. The judge specifically pointed to the social media data, because Tree wasn't just pulling transaction records. The risk score, according to the court documents, included information gleaned from social media, combined with transactional data, to build individual profiles. The court also said the data collection could be considered, quote, highly offensive. Not my words, the judge's.
Now, the number that actually explains why any of this exists. In 2024, Americans returned $890 billion worth of merchandise. That's not a typo. $890 billion, according to the National Retail Federation and Happy Returns, published December 2024. 16.9% of everything sold that year came back. And processing each return, actually handling the logistics of it, cost the average retailer around 30% of the item's original price. That's Optoro's data, cited in CNBC's December 2024 coverage of the same NRF report.
So a $100 jacket comes back. The retailer pays roughly $30 to receive it, inspect it, repackage it, or write it off. The jacket might not even go back on the shelf. About $103 billion of that $890 billion was classified as fraudulent or abusive returns, according to Appriss Retail and Deloitte's 2024 figures. This is the math that built the system. Not greed, exactly. Fear of a number. And when you're afraid of a number that large, you stop handling it yourself. You buy a solution.
The solution has been around since 1999. That's when the Retail Equation filed its first trademark, Verify One, with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, providing return authorization services to retailers through a computer database to authorize merchandise returned by consumers. That's the filing language, verbatim. A return authorization database. Filed the same year people were still debating whether the internet was going to last. By the mid-2000s, they'd added the Return Activity Report, trademark 2005. A printed report providing information to a person about their product return history, meaning they always intended to tell you the file existed. They just didn't advertise it. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau lists the retail equation as a consumer reporting agency, the same classification as a credit bureau, which means technically you can request your own file. You're entitled to one free report per year. What you'll receive is a transaction log. What you won't receive is your actual score, or the methodology behind it, or which social connections they factored in.
One journalist who went through this process in 2019 described the experience as the company's data request infrastructure feeling like an afterthought, tacked on for legal compliance rather than designed with the expectation that consumers might actually use it. That's from Slate, November 2019. The reporter had been inspired by Kashmir Hill's investigation into a related company called Sift, where requesting a data file returned a 400-page document containing private messages, delivery orders, and a log of every time someone had opened an app on their phone.
The retail equation's response to data requests, for context, requires you to call a 1-800 number, designed for complaints, then provide a transaction ID from your declined return receipt, then wait. Most people don't have the receipt. That's part of how this works.
Here's the thing about the court case that almost nobody covered. The lawsuit argued that TRE should be regulated under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, that these risk scores were essentially consumer reports, the same category as credit scores, and should carry the same legal protections. Accuracy requirements, dispute rights, notification when the score is used against you. The court dismissed the FCRA claim. The reasoning? The risk score doesn't affect your eligibility for credit. You're not borrowing money. You're returning a jacket. So the consumer protections that apply when a bank rejects your loan application don't apply when an algorithm decides you're too risky to shop.
The CCPA claim was also dismissed on the grounds that the data sharing was a deliberate business decision to combat fraud, not a security failure. The court said, essentially, they meant to do this. The invasion of privacy claim survived. That case is still working through the system. There's a detail in the Patent and Trademark Office filings that I keep coming back to. When TRE evaluates your return behavior, they use not just your data. They use, and I'm quoting from ClassAction.org's coverage of the TRE patent filings directly, transaction data collected at points of return from other customers thought to be related to this customer by home address, family name, or other connecting data. People thought to be related to you.
Not confirmed relatives, not verified connections. People who share your zip code or your last name or some other data point the algorithm decided was meaningful. Their return behavior is folded into your score. Without your knowledge, without their knowledge, without any disclosed methodology for how much weight that carries. This is structural. This isn't an error. They filed for a patent on it.
82% of consumers, according to the NRF's 2025 Retail Returns Landscape Report, say free returns are an important consideration when deciding where to shop. The return policy is, at this point, part of the product. People buy things online precisely because they can send them back. The system was built on that expectation. And then a parallel system was built on top of it to decide who gets to keep making that expectation. You agreed to it. Somewhere in the terms and conditions of a store you've used for years, there's a clause reserving the right to use third-party verification for returns. CVS's spokesperson confirmed this publicly when one of their customers was denied a return and went to the press. The quote was straightforward. Similar to other major retailers, we reserve the right to decline to accept a return, even if accompanied by a receipt, if it does not pass our third-party verification. Even with a receipt. The score can override the receipt.
I don't know what your score is. You probably don't either. The methodology is proprietary. The threshold for a warning versus a denial isn't public. The weight assigned to your family member's return at a different store isn't disclosed. What is documented in federal court filings, in CFPB listings, in patent applications, in NRF research compiled using TRE's parent company's data is that the system exists, has existed for over 2 decades, processes data from tens of millions of transactions, and was designed from the start to function without you noticing it. The last time you showed your ID to return something, you weren't just processing a transaction. You were updating a file.